So cool. Yo, Josh, how you doing?
What's up? I'm doing good. Yourself?
Good, good. We got an exciting AMA today with Ultiverse.
Yeah, I know. I'm really excited for this.
That trailer is amazing. Can we let Jay and Jemmy into the room?
Yes, we can.
Hey guys,
Hey
GM,
guys,
Hi
GM,
guys.
good evening, no matter where you guys are from. Thanks for us.
that trailer is absolutely amazing. Like we got a lot to talk about today. But I want to kick it off. So for everyone who's listening, Jay and Jemmy have been generous enough to give away 5 whitelist spots today for Ultiverse. So we're going to be keeping Josh and I are going to be keeping an eye on the comments section. We'll probably answer more of the questions towards the end, but as we see good questions, we're going to be writing them down and picking winners. So again, we're going to have 5 winners today that will be receiving whitelist spots for Ultiverse. You have to be following the PathDAO YouTube channel, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. But yeah, let's just kick it off. Like, can you guys both like tell us a little bit more about like your role at Ultiverse?
Yeah, sounds good. So Jay, maybe I can just kick it off and we'll pass on to the time to you right after. So yeah, my name is Jamie. I'm currently helping the Ultiverse team, to lead up like the partnerships wing. Jay, will be able to share a little bit about himself, but he's kind of like helping us in terms of like the business development side of things. So yeah, together we actually help to run the outreach. In terms of working with different partners like you guys at PathDAO, just to share a little bit about what we are building at Ultiverse. The project itself has been around, since like mid last year. And the team itself, what sort of really convinced us was the proven track record. They have basically real sort of like delivery as far as like the industry goes. They built like real games, shipped real games most importantly, and the angle that they are taking towards like the Web3 perspective is something that is pretty refreshing. And of course, I think everyone in the space would know that games takes like a long time to build, and the just the experience alone of having shipped like real games with real active users that are actually scalable to a certain level, that is actually a very incredible and very valuable experience in Web3 by itself.
Yeah, and just to I think Jimmy covered it pretty well. We, like he said, working together with Ultiverse and development, reach out to the communities and partners. We also do a lot of the fun AMAs together, like we're having right now. So yeah, I think that's a good kind of overview.
Okay, so we saw the trailer at the beginning, right? But you guys have a pretty like complex project here. It's not just like one thing. So for somebody now who's just hearing about Ultiverse for the first time, can you give us like a little bit of an introduction, like an overview of the project?
Yeah, so I would say that the larger vision, Johnson, you're right to actually point it out. For someone who's perhaps like new to the project, at first glance, the impression could just be, is this just like a GameFi project, or is this just like another Metaverse project? I would say that the vision for Ultiverse is a lot more than that. The vision itself, from the very beginning, when they first started building it up, is a very bold vision that they're putting it up. It's about what like the future of virtual worlds could be. And I think today we have seen a couple alternatives out there as far as virtual world goes. But to some degree, each of them all offer their unique sort of like value proposition, but also at the same time we see that every single metaverse platform also struggle in their own unique forms. So
Yeah.
example, it's either barriers to entry from the user level, high costs in general, or just the economy itself being really closed up to only holders, something like that. As a result, you can't really scale that towards mainstream adoption. And for certain platforms, for instance, I think we also struggle a little bit in terms of the quality of build. And the reason why we say this is because assuming that you are a brand, for instance, whatever brand that you can think of, you ideally will want to portray the high fidelity content and also the actual product in hyper realistic form as much as possible, just to reflect the actual product in the real world, and so that at some point when you actually are able to do real customer conversion in the virtual world, then we can say that the virtual world has reached a stage whereby mass adoption is actually possible, because a lot of the things that Web2 users or Web2 firms are used to doing, things that actually fundamentally run the entire economy. For instance, buying and selling, right? That's like the most fundamental activity of every economy, buying and selling. And so we need to achieve a state whereby we're not just fulfilling like the vision of Web3, serving Web3 native, but also coming up with a platform whereby Web2 users, the vision of Web2 ecosystem stakeholders, can also be fulfilled. So Ultiverse is basically building like the future of MetaFi. And the Ultiverse is kind of like the name of the larger ecosystem and the project. But the way that you can actually look at it is that Ultiverse is kind of like the parent company, and then if you zoom out the pieces of the ecosystem, from pillars point of view, there's Terminus. Terminus is the metaverse itself, whereby example brands and whatnot, whatever pain points that we discussed earlier. Terminus aims to solve them by being like this mass meeting platform that everyone can come together for all sorts of purpose. So that's one, the metaverse. There's also the endless loop itself, which actually is like a GameFi platform. So of course we know that gaming is a very huge pillar by itself within crypto, and there's of course a lot of hope and I would say interest in this space to allow gaming to become sort of like the vertical that would onboard the next billion of users. And so with that itself, we are definitely committed to leverage on the team's previous track record to build up that MetaFi platform, and then bring out elements of the GameFi whereby individuals can not only interact with users in the metaverse, but also meet together for, let's say, like gaming, and allow individuals to interact in the economy itself. And I think Jay, can probably supplement a little bit about endless loop and why it's a little bit more unique than the ones that we see out there.
For sure. So, what I think is really cool about endless loop. Well, I should start that. Our CEO Frank was and still is actually a huge fan of World of Warcraft. So he's put in endless hours in that MMORPG, and if you look at that genre, kind of like the benchmark, the high benchmark, kind of premier offering in that genre.
Yeah.
So obviously we're Blizzard's a great studio, so they set a very high standard. That's something we're kind of aiming for. So but again, they built that out over 20 years. But we take a lot of our kind of I would.
Oops, I think we lost him.
Yeah, I think we lost Jay for a bit.
I lost Jay for a second. No, I mean the graphics you guys are doing are absolutely like amazing. Like you saw like in the trailer at the beginning. We have a couple other we have some more stuff, right, that we can play that we're allowed to show the community, Jemmy.
Yeah, that's right. Do you guys?
Because I got some questions on the hover bike.
Oh yeah.
I mean that looks really cool. So for people who haven't seen that, let's play that, and then we're gonna jump back and we're gonna ask Jemmy some questions.
Right, sounds good. That's good.
Just unreal.
Exactly.
It should be called, yeah, it should be called Unreal Engine just because everything looks so sick. I love how the light has that like reflection on some of those sand dunes, and like obviously like when he jumps off, you're hearing the footsteps. It's just like it brings you like right into that world. But like, what are we watching there, Jemmy? Like it's sick, okay? But like, what exactly is that? Is that like, am I gonna be able to just go jump on my hover bike and do that, or am I gonna be able to do that like maybe with like a group of friends and we're all on our hover bikes?
Jay, are you around? Let's have you, break the egg to everyone.
For sure. I hope you guys can hear me. I know I cut out there earlier. That's definitely kind of like an early test we're doing. What's really cool about the hover bike, obviously, is uh, like you said, the visuals is good. About the lighting system, just real quick, you mentioned the lighting is cool, and one of the cool kind of new features of UE5 and Unreal Engine 5 is their Lumen lighting system, which kind of allows us to build really immersive, realistic lighting in real time. And the bonus is without really stressing, the CPU and the graphics card. So in general with UE5, it's really kind of a key tool for us, obviously, that we can kind of achieve a really high graphical standard without, making the hardware requirements super high where, we'd unfortunately be limited by who can kind of join us in the game. Back to the hover bike itself. Yes, definitely you'll be able to jump on once you have the asset. Obviously, once you can jump on at any time. If you're playing in groups, you'll be able to jump on with your friends. You can set up your own little races. Obviously, we're looking at having some missions that are based around like set race points as well. But in general, all of the 40 worlds that we're building for Endless Loop is kind of like its own little open world, and you're free to traverse across it, however you want, depending on the tools you have at your disposal.
That's awesome. So 40 different worlds.
Yes, we're aiming for 40 plus. So for us, it's 40 is the bare minimum. So.
Yeah, and I would say I would just add that the beauty of building with Unreal is that is extremely from the fidelity point of view, it's extremely impressive. Like the quality of build that you can get is just unparalleled. So that's one, and I think that the way that we've done it is pretty flexible as well, and we've done multiple outreach with different sort of like brands or like IRL partners as well. And usually the specification that we've given them is that hey, no matter what you guys want, as long as you have like the 3D model, there's a way that we can actually integrate it. So as much as like for whatever that you saw, it's actually more skewed towards, I think, what one of the audience actually commented. I think it was let me see, Lance Grayson. Ultiverse graphic like cyberpunk, that is actually the kind of like the direction that we have been building towards as well. So yeah, Lance, you're right to point that out. We are actually building towards like the cyberpunk direction.
That's really cool, man. Dude, I actually wanted to sort of trace back a little bit to points that you mentioned about barriers to entry, right? Walk us through sort of the journey of, say, I'm a first-time user gamer, right? And I'm interested about Ultiverse and accessing this sort of virtual world terminus, right? What do I got to do? Do I have to download a client on PC? Do I have to create an account? Do I have to buy an NFT? How does this all work?
Yeah, I would add that the of course the ideal state, the easiest way to really allow individuals to just jump on is that if they don't have to download anything. But unfortunately, as we know, with all HTML5 build equivalent as well, there are actually quite a bit of limitations with that. So I think that's one of the reasons why builds, even the scale of like sandbox using mostly pixels and whatnot, also require like the client download. And so I would say for us wise, is it would be a similar setup that we are actually building towards. Individual users will require will actually require a client download, and then they just need to install it, and then they can actually access it. So I think the state that we are actually working towards, as far as what we're seeing right now, is that everyone should be given the opportunity to access the metaverse, regardless of whether you have an NFT or not. But of course, it is important that we continue to retain and build that community that we have, and continue to attribute value to, especially towards the early supporters. And so what that means is, the ability to for users, who are community members, or more explicit terms, users who actually hold our NFTs, to actually be logged in and have something special, and be able to experience something special aside from what the mass platform users would actually be able to. And at the same time, it is also about not limiting participation. It shouldn't be a case whereby you must have an NFT, then you can enter the metaverse. The ideal state is where everyone can. But of course, if you own the NFTs, if you own land, etc., then you have a customized experience that it's either you get to go through part of the build that we have already sort of extended, or you can even build out like the future that you want to see. And then the goal of this all within Ultiverse is to build towards a UGC, right? A user generated content economy.
Dude, thanks for answering, man. I know I should be keeping some of the questions from the comment section towards the end, but I should be doing even questions. But sorry, I really think this is interesting. So maybe just to segue from Jemmy, your answer would be, so now that the user, let's say the user comes into Ultiverse, right? Or sorry, the user comes into Terminus, right? What sort of unique characteristics of the game you think will attract new players? What sort of content are you gonna push out or ship out first for people to come in? Like, is it a marketplace? Is it the games? Is it is it endless loop straight away? Or because you mentioned about like 40 different maps or instances, right? Like, how are you thinking about prioritizing? Sorry, compound question.
No worries at all. No worries at all. Jay, do you have good connection here?
Yeah, I hope so. I really want to be able to take part, of course. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I hope I'm over the internet issues. So that's a really good question. I think we want to have our our Metaverse Hub Terminus go live around the same time as Endless Loop. So players have something immediately that they can really jump into, like a full-fledged experience they can jump into.
Yeah.
Oops,
Okay.
I think. Okay, yeah. So maybe I'll just add a little bit to that. I think the way that we're really looking at it is, once again, it is not really like about like either or. I would say is ideally, the state of the platform should be a case whereby we are able to onboard users via the terminus, which is the metaverse platform of Ultiverse, as well as like the GameFi ecosystem. And the way that I sort of like see it is that what are the different components or the elements that can enable success to the largest degree here? And I think one that we talked about is the metaverse component. Ideally, we want to not limit participation. We want to allow individuals to get on board regardless of whether they have an NFT. This game should not be a game about wealth, about pay to earn or whatever. The experience of a metaverse should be accessible to all, regardless of reach or as long as you have internet, you should be able to access to it. And the way that we've been approaching user growth is really about working with ecosystem partners like yourself, regardless of a Web 2 or Web 3 approach. Example, in the Web 2 space, we are working with like IRL brands to curate and to actually create very dedicated and customized experiences. And so with that itself, then they would be able to onboard their own clienteles, their own sort of like users who traditionally are more from the Web 2 background and have never ever heard about anything about like crypto, metaverse, MetaMask, your Binance Chain wallet, or much less Phantom, right? So that would be the strategy, at least for onboarding the Web 2 users. As far as like the GameFi platform goes, I think the largest enabler, for GameFi in crypto to actually be successful and scalable is that you need to enable, go back to the roots of gaming. Why do people play games? People play games because they enjoy and they have fun, and there's a social element to it. So how can we actually replicate that experience within Ultiverse, for endless loop? So I think that the goal is really to allow individuals to actually come in and first and foremost not have like high barriers to entry. Anyone and everyone should be able to do it. but build out an economy that is sophisticated to support the different stages of transaction, right? Just like in today's world of collectibles, you have people trading collectibles of like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, but at the same time, at the core of it all, it's about microtransactions, right? It's about the $1, $2, the $4.99, the $9.99, and it's about all these microtransactions that actually fuel the entire gaming industry. So I think the while we haven't sort of like fully completed the build out there, the goal is to really be able to build up a product that is viable to the native gaming audience, regardless of whether if they have heard of um, the crypto gaming or anything about like MetaMask or anything about crypto at all. Because I think that the state at which we likely could agree on about crypto gaming at this stage is that it's largely speculative. People are arguably in it for the money and not so much of like the experience. And I think to some degree we could also agree that it may not be as sustainable. And for it to be really sustainable, we need to go back to the core, the roots of gaming. What exactly makes it fun? What exactly keeps an economy intact? How do we actually encourage that microtransactions to come in again?
Well, I think like Jemmy just jumping in, so the other day I went into you guys' Discord, into the Ultiverse Discord, right? And it was really, really, really active. And it seems like obviously Josh has touched on about the gaming aspect of your project, but there's a very big social aspect of your project and that sense of community. And it was pretty amazing jumping in. Anyone who's listening to this who has not visited the Ultiverse Discord, definitely sign up and join in there, because you guys are, again, it's more than just a game. You're really using this to bring individuals, communities, and cultures together.
Yeah, thanks for the kind words. I think what has been sort of a pretty good learning experience for myself as well is that building Ultiverse has not been kind of like the same way as you would approach building a typical Web3 projects, just because like the clientele and the profile of potential users is much more than just Web3 audience itself. And because of that, as a result, we have attracted users that we would never have imagined from a different background. And users who are really new to the space, they heard about it either through like the PR pushes. Example, we've had multiple PR pushes with brands like perhaps like PathDAO announcing like partnership, GuildFi, and more importantly also like the audience, the investors that we have, right? Like Binance, of course it's like Web3. But guys like Sequoia and whatnot, those come from like a more traditional and Web2 approach. And so as a result, some of the partnerships that we have as well with like Web2 brands and whatnot, does help us to bring in a slightly different profile of users, which has been pretty refreshing because the topics that they are interested in as far as like community building goes is so different, right? And that brings about a pretty fresh perspective, and almost like showing us a different way that we can actually approach project building, and maybe hopefully a new definition of like what Web3 metaverses is all about, aside from speculation, your 100x, your floor prices, etc.
Well, also, Jemmy, it's not just project building; it's community building. So you guys today, like you can see Jay and Jemmy's profile pics. We're going to get to this in just a second, but we're going to be giving away 5 whitelist spots. So we're looking for good questions in the comment section. We're going to ask these more towards the end, but make sure to put the comments up. I know Josh has like already picked in his head a winner or two. So write down some better questions. We're going to be giving those away at the end. But we're talking about all this stuff. It's really cool. But let's show one of the walk around videos, because like if you guys missed the trailers at the start, like we're going to keep playing some content because this is like next level stuff. So right now we're going to show a Terminus walk around video.
So this is kind of like the alpha build that we have, in this video, or this sort of like a clip. You can actually see, the entire sort of build so far has been a pretty extensive one, and it's almost arguably modeled after like a shopping mall experience, right? whereby it's just to really showcase the components as well as like the capabilities of this entire larger metaverse. And example products, brands can actually do virtual galleries. These three portals that we are seeing is perhaps like the launch pad. Launchpad in the sense that whereby you go in and you get yourself launched into an alternate world. And the way that we're also approaching this, to bring in like Web3 audiences, we want this to be a meeting point for you to be able to do all things related to like Web3. So think about buying your favorite NFTs on, ETH, on Solana, etc. Working the different marketplaces to actually allow their transactions to be done here. We also have an ongoing partnership with buy swaps, allow people to do DEXs, assuming that, hey, you and I are hanging out here and okay, like we decided to enter a trade, we hit a trade alert and say, okay, do so and so, or like we just want to, because we're hanging out and we want to buy like our favorite shit coin, and we want to do a DEX, you can actually do it as well. So yeah, so in here, what you're seeing here is kind of like the example of what multiple users hanging in the metaverse could be like. So example, this guy is just showing you like the extensive of the build, how two individuals or two models in the space actually allows interaction still and doesn't really get in the way. So yeah, and that is sort of like the club or like the bar equivalent. Imagine hitting up your favorite, DJ or whatnot right here, hosting your parties or whatnot.
This is really cool, right? And like I'm already imagining myself, and I play quite a number of games, right? I'm already imagining myself like buying stuff, owning stuff here, and like the fact that this is Web3, that these NFTs or these items, I actually own it.
Mm.
I'm just very curious because you alluded to a point earlier on the economy, right? How does an economy work in this sort of setting? What kind of items are there? How does one even create an item? um yeah, can we
Yeah,
trade stuff? And yeah.
yeah, that's right. So I think the way that we would sort of like do it would definitely be a multi-phase approach. I wouldn't say that out of the door we would allow users to be able to sort of like freely create and trade it immediately, but I think that's sort of like the vision that we're building towards. But I think maybe like a good example is sort of like having our own sort of like toolkit, allowing users to build without any coding experience, right? Where you can put different things together, and then of course artists or whatnot can also find a way to perhaps monetize their creation out of this space. So example, if you have a land, then you can basically build what your own virtual experience could look like, and then you can have all the items that you created be used to design and decorate your space. So that's one. As once that level of extension has already been built, we will then allow users to trade among themselves, and once they are able to trade among themselves, is really about having that marketplace that we should be able to allow to facilitate any form of builds. So maybe there's a case whereby we build it to a scale of example size 1, size 2, and then we just spread them across like different builds. Of course, like different builds will require like different resources to actually commence the build, or different cost structure, etc., etc.
We're like the artwork is just amazing, right? And it's I love the diversity, between some of the content we've seen so far. Like, can you talk a little bit about like the inspiration or the motivation like behind that? Because I mean, the detailing, Jemmy and Jay, is like, I mean, it's extensive, and whether we're talking shadows and light. I was loving what was going on with the portals. Josh, you saw like those figures dancing in the background. A bunch of people in the comments section, they're talking, not about gaming, but like the party metaverse. Can you talk to us a little bit about like the motivation behind the artwork?
Yeah, I would say generally sort of like the direction that we have undertaken is really building towards like the cyberpunk feeling, right? And what that would mean, right? In a couple of years down the road, it's kind of like what we envision the future to be, to a very futuristic experience. And so with that itself example, you will see things like we don't really we haven't really sort of like put out a car. Of course, you can have the car, but we would pretty much prefer like the hoverboard, as opposed to things like a car or like a motorbike or whatnot. And even, as you see, like Launchpad, the classic things would be like walking into a portal or opening a door. And so we, instead of that, we try to replicate like walking into like a portal itself, right? And it's the same for the NFT gallery that we have sort of like approached it. Instead of kind of like building up like walls that are quite static and relatively boring in terms of the degree of engagement that you can have. We wanted to become installations that are like floating in there to really show sort of like a more futuristic experience as far as that goes. And I think the one of the thing that we're really thankful for is really the team's prior experience to building up games and high quality build, and that really allows us to pursue these with a higher degree of freedom, and the abilities to eventually churn it out and deliver them. It's also something that we are relatively thankful for, I would say.
You mentioned this term quickly earlier, but I want to go back to it just so people in the audience understand. Can you talk about MetaFi, right? So like this is a unique sort of angle that you guys is pushing. Can you like bring our community a little bit up to date with this term?
Yeah, I would say that example, Metaverse, everyone knows about it, right? Metaverse itself, as long as you're like Web3 native, you would have heard about it like countless times today. It's almost like the buzzword. But it's the way that we're approaching this. You can think about MetaFi and GameFi in a similar manner, or in a similar direction. GameFi is simply blending an ecosystem that is viable enough to be sustained from the financial side of things, right? So that would be perhaps involving things like tokenomics, design, player interaction, player economy, and so on and so forth. And so you could perhaps replicate the same for a case like MetaFi. Basically, the level of interaction so far for different metaverses has always been pretty much like one-sided, right? Even though the build that we have seen and the level of interaction that could potentially be done, but we would perhaps say that it hasn't really been achieved to date in terms of that really high degree of freedom and interaction between different sort of like token holders and different like end users and creators and whatnot. And so that's kind of like the way that we're approaching MetaFi. How do we build the fi portion, of everything that has worked in areas like DeFi, GameFi, etc., etc. And now with Metaverse coming out, the way that we hope for it to be eventually sustainable is to have the element of the Metaverse interaction that is much different from platforms like DeFi and whatnot, right? But what if there's a way where we can actually leverage on Metaverse as like the avenue for people to come together for all things related to DeFi, GameFi, and a bunch of other things, and the ecosystem becomes a lot more complex. And the good news of it all is that as it becomes more complex, the number of participants also increases to in a more tremendous manner, whereby transactions and the degree of freedom as well as like participation between stakeholders also becomes a lot more meaningful.
Very cool. Hey, so you guys, if you didn't hear that, that's a very important definition. This is obviously recorded, so you guys can go back and listen to it. But what Jemmy is explaining, MetaFi is actually our secret code number 1 for Game Street tonight. So it's pretty cool to hear that, right, Josh? Like we talk a lot about GameFi, but obviously Jay and Jemmy are building a whole new degree on it, and it's real interesting to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this could be a question that might come from sort of a community standpoint would be like, it sounds like there's a lot going on, right? There's so many sort of features and things to build up. I'm very curious. How are you guys thinking about planning your roadmap? Like, which one do you ship first? Do you ship the game? Do you ship the metaverse? Or is it all in conjunction? And, it might take a while back, but would that be more preferable in shipping something more complete later on? Or just sort of in increments, and then just managing expectations with your community?
Yeah, sorry, I saw Jay try to unmute himself, so that's why I wanted to give him time to respond. Yeah, feel free to go ahead, Jay.
I'm hoping I'm back on here. Let me know if you guys if I'm cutting out, and then Jimmy can take over.
No worries.
Um,
Got you. Yeah.
So, like you said, Josh, there's a lot of different moving parts. We definitely want we definitely want players to be able to jump into Endless Loop, which is our full-fledged kind of GameFi experience. It's part of our metaverse as soon as possible. So if you look at our roadmap, we have them kind of staggered a bit, and where that the alpha launch for Terminus will come first, followed relatively closely by Endless Loop, and the same kind of staggered approach is true for both betas and the mainnet launches as well. So yeah, it would be great to be able to launch both simultaneously, but there's there's a little bit of difficulty in that. But we're going to be able to launch Endless Loop.
Awesome. And actually, I just wanted to sort of highlight a point that you guys mentioned before, and it's very much on the credibility and the track record of the team. You mentioned that before, they've done a couple of games before that did pretty well. I'm very curious, like how big is the studio? Like what sort of game did they build before? Is there anything you could share on that? Just yeah.
Okay, I think we officially rocked him again.
Yeah.
Jay went through a portal to one of the different terminals.
Yeah, he went ahead of us, much faster ahead of anyone else in the room.
Yeah.
So yeah, just can I confirm your question again?
Yeah, no. I mean, you alluded earlier to sort of the team being, incredibly stacked, huge credibility in building games before. Could you share a little bit more about, where they come from, and what sort of games before that they've worked on?
Yeah, for sure. So example, I would perhaps start with like our CEO Frank. Frank has an extensive experience, of course, in not just like leadership areas, but so maybe just to elaborate a little bit on that, he was kind of like the CEO of a startup that got acquired by Siemens, and eventually he went on to work with Siemens for a while, and then of course he saw the opportunity and his personal involvement in Web3 as well. He's like although he's a CEO, but he's a degen at heart. He bought a lot of NFTs at the bottom as well as at the top. So he's like definitely a guy that actually knows what is actually going on in the space. Not just from the perspective of just another sort of like builder or like Web2 guy coming to Web3. Which we are seeing a lot of that. So that is something that we're thankful for. At least like the leadership team, they are like degens to a certain degree. Joe, was also kind of like the ex founding team of a startup that eventually got acquired. And he has some experience, from the back end doing a lot of like investments as well. Cypher and Carl, they were actually working on game studios. They actually built their own game studios. They built like game titles like Elden Ring, and they worked with. They were actually from the company called like Game Loft. And with that itself, they actually also had a couple of like they actually had this like game title. I'm trying to find out the name. Is like I think that starts with R or something. That basically was a platform where I think it was a couple million in terms of like revenue that they actually generated from the game title itself, and then with again a few 100,000 from an MAU DAU perspective, which has been pretty impressive just to hear the experience that they have done. Oh yes, so Jay very kindly just sent it over, Assassin's Creed and Prince of Persia. So those are some of the titles that they have built. So yeah, hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I did, man. And that is really really cool. I mean, it sounds very promising. I mean, earlier you mentioned a couple of 100K MAU. I think because I recall speaking to Frank as well. The game was called Razil, and like this game was like a hack and slash mobile game. It grossed over like $100 million in revenue, and this was over 2 to 3 years. I think the game is still live in the App Store, if I'm not mistaken. I have yet to try it out, but on sort of team and building, I have to ask this question. It is the bear season right now, and just curious to get from Jay and Jemmy your standpoint. How are you guys managing work sustainability? How do you keep up the morale and keep building.
Yeah, that's a really good point. In fact, we also sort of like plan to address it, before our next big announcement in the next couple of days. So of course the markets go up, the markets go down. It would be unreal to expect it to be sort of like up only. And I would say this is a very painful period for a lot of us. For sure, it's not easy. But also, largely because if you look at it effectively, over 40 to 50% at least, or even more, I would, be even more extensive to say that maybe even 60% of entire crypto, users today actually came in only over the last year. All right, so of course that means that a lot of us, in the room may not have been exposed to the level of volatility and the intensity, of like price movement that we're seeing today. And so as a result, it becomes like an extremely stressful experience. And so the good news for us all amidst this level of like insanity just going on out there is that we had secured a pretty decent size of funding before, and because a lot of the treasury were already in the stables, we are not too badly affected, and we as a result still have a very decent runway for us to keep the team running, continue to just hunker down and continue building. I think individually, I think in terms of the work, is not going to get easier. It's just that especially from the community and the different elements out there, right? Environmental factors will definitely affect the way that we're approaching this all. So just one example is community building. Community building in a bear is very different. You need to be extremely aware of sentiments out there, what your community members are actually feeling, and then respond accordingly by planning the appropriate activities. So that's one. Second, communication needs to be a lot more transparent. Naturally, people will be fading away. How do we ensure the quality of communication, as far as a transparency standpoint, can still be can be actually upheld to the highest level, so that the level of interest from community members will still be sustained, so that at the end of the day, you don't want to just be building just by yourself. If you just build by yourself, and then at the end of the day, 3 years down, once not 3 years, that would be a really long time, or whenever the bear market is done, and the market comes back, you would have lost all your community members. So what good is it, if you end up building the entire product with no supporters there, with no community members there? I think that's like the worst thing any platform, any product, any protocol can actually end up, from a state perspective, and therefore it is definitely something that we should avoid at all costs.
Yeah, well, the community is definitely strong in your project, and that's, I think, just a testament to obviously what you're building. But as you're saying, there's that synergy that you need between the community building and the project building. So if anyone's checking in late, we're giving away 5 whitelist spots. We're going to jump. Josh, I'm seeing some good questions here. So we're going to jump to the questions pretty soon. But Jay, Jemmy, like anyone who's watching, like they're seeing these sick profile pics you guys have. Talk to us a little bit about the NFTs. Like, for example, what am I looking at on your profile photos?
Cool. Yeah. What you're seeing on our profile picture is actually the electric sheep NFT. So electric sheep NFT is actually a collection of 10,000 PFP. It is basically the Genesis collection of Ultiverse, that we actually, have started it to sort of like be the gateway for us to bring together a group of early supporters and to build out the community from that frontier. And these 10,000 PFP NFTs will also become native residents of Ultiverse, and they of course will have like their own space, their own benefits, but the whole idea of this, like 10,000 NFTs, is that the utilities that come with it is meant to be comprehensive and holistic enough, such that anyone who holds the NFT would be able to freely interact with a very high degree of freedom on this larger ecosystem that we're building. So NFT holders will get like a 1:1 avatar, 3D models especially, And personally, I'm actually a big fan of the 3D models as opposed to like the 2D ones. I'm sure you guys may have seen it. We put out a couple of like the transposition of 2D to 3D, and that has been pretty impressive. And that's something that I'm personally very excited about. There's also going to be a token of like a component of token drop. So whatever token that we're actually working on, both governance as well as like the ecosystem token, will actually be airdrop to NFT holders. And most importantly, instead of like doing a land dedicated sale or like asking our holders, NFT holders, to just go out and buy lands, all NFT holders will actually get hold of a piece of land as well.
Wow.
Rarity to be decided, but with the land, they can actually build like their own ecosystem within. So it's actually, as you can see,
that's some good alpha there for our community.
And that's right,
Jenny, but like the Genesis NFT that we're seeing here, this is the actual one that people, or not this is the type that people can win today, correct? Like 5 of these, is that what we're giving away? Because these are amazing.
We're giving 5 sort of like min spots to be able to be part of like the launch to mint this 10,000 PFP NFT, and this is like the Genesis NFT. Basically, whatever that you're seeing on our profile picture, it is most likely you'll not get your hands on mine, but you'll get something that is like similar. So yeah, I forgot to mention just one thing. Every NFT has up to 11 traits. There's one sort of like super rare one with 12 traits, but that's like the ambassador of the project. So it's most likely, that's just like one of it. But most of them can have up to 11 traits, and all these traits, will actually be airdropped to the NFT holders. And basically, it becomes like the first wave. I know Josh asked a little bit about how individuals start trading. So basically, all these trades that are airdrop will basically become the first wave of NFTs that will eventually be tradable for holders in the ecosystem.
And so, Jemmy, you were saying about the 3D models, like earlier we saw like kind of the walk around. It was more like the run around, right? Like, and we saw the white character with the NFT integration. Is that then going to be like your profile character in a 3D model?
That's right. It would not just, so for NFT holders, it would not just be a JPEG or a picture in the metaverse. Basically, you get the full 3D models that you can actually use inside. So you will run around, example, in my yellow color hood with a cigarette on my hand. Jay will run around with a laser on his head. And Josh maybe will run around with like a gun on his hand. And Johnson, you can run around with maybe, I don't think you get the hoverboard this round, but maybe you get something cool as well.
Oh, you're muted.
That's so cool. Josh, I'm starting to see some good questions.
No, yeah, absolutely. I've just been looking through and browsing through all the comments, and I mean, there is one really juicy one that I have to ask it. So are you guys ready? So this one's from Cheryl Sue. This comes at 9:48 p.m. We gotta address the elephant in the room. Like with 3AC, Three Arrows Capital going through turbulent times, how has this affected you guys? Like, they are your early investors. Any thoughts?
That's right. So this is something that we are actively monitoring. I would say that the level of impact is not as bad because basically we already have the funds wired to us.
There you go. You got the money.
Yeah, that's right. So thankfully, sort of like of course, first and foremost, like we just want to state that this is definitely not an ideal state, and our hearts are definitely with the 3AC team. And we are definitely with them in the state whereby we really hope that they will be able to tide this through somehow by working with different partners in the space and whatnot. So but yeah, I think back to the question, I think one of your community member pointed out the elephant in the room. We have been monitoring this very closely over the last couple of days, also because not just not from the perspective on whether if we are affected, because we are not that sort of like affected in that way, because we already have the funds committed, the funds are already safe, it's already stable, and that really helps to sort of like build up the war chest that we need. So that's fine. But we are just sort of like monitoring that as well, just to see how things turn out and see if there are like of course we I don't think we can help them that much. but really perhaps just sending our well wishes to them and whatnot. But I think another question.
I hate to say it, Jemmy, but it's more important that they're helping you guys, right? And obviously, like, they've invested, like, your listed investors is like, gold standard, right? And in market and in turbulent times, like, things happen to, like, even like the biggest and the best of the funds. That being said, like, you guys are just concentrated on building, and as long as you've received that money, then it doesn't really sound like it affects you at all.
Yeah, that's right. So I think you're right to point that out, and I think in fact I would even sort of like go one step further. Yesterday, I'm sure around like 24 hours or like 12 hours ago, people started sharing around tweets, perhaps around like whether projects have like treasury managed by 3AC. Those could be potential sort of like areas that could be point of failures. So thankfully for us, we're not affected by that. We don't have any funds that are sort of like managed by 3AC. So just to share with everybody, we are not impacted by this, and from the loss of funds perspective, everything is still safe, and this sort of like goes back to the whole war chest that we are actually building out of.
Well, no, Jemmy, thanks for just addressing that. Josh, I'm gonna get him. I got a good question for the second one here that I'm seeing, but I really want to we got to show off more of your world, right? Like, can we play? We got to pull a video of the map. Let's play that to show people an idea here. Again, diversity.
What we have is going for really kind of realistic. So this is just one of the I was saying before, it kind of got cut out, but this is one of the worlds we're kind of building out. We're gonna have 40 plus, minimum 40 different worlds in Endless Loop for players to explore. Definitely pre-alpha still. So we're going to be adding a lot more to it. There's going to be obviously enemies in on each world. There's going to be different types of native species, some hostile, some not to the player. So, but this can give you, even though it's a pre-alpha build, this will give scope that we're going for and the scope that we're building on UE5.
It's cool, Jay, just to see the diversity, right, in all the different worlds. So far, we've given away one whitelist spot. We have 4 more to give away. I'm going to pick the second one now. So that means we got three more after this. I think it's a good question, but I also want to expand a little bit on this. So the winner that I'm going to pick is from 37 minutes past the hour. It's Kim Lee. Kim Lee asked, and this goes back, I think, to the Terminus, but is the Terminus, do they have like a leasing or a renting spot for guilds to use as headquarters? In the previous video, like you saw, we were running around this like really extensive, Josh, like how cool was that, like world? Is there going to be like leasing and renting like of land? Like could we rent something out, for example, to hold a PathDAO party?
So we have a lot of different spaces available, but one of our partners is GuildFi, and for them, we're actually allocating a really cool piece of Terminus for them to kind of build their guild headquarters. I think we could definitely, of course, talk with your team as well. I'm working on something similar. I think that'd be really cool. to have your community kind of join and have like a core kind of headquarters hangout space, in Terminus. And then we'll also have, one of our partners is Corite, which is a really cool, honestly, a really cool kind of music crowdfunding platform, in which music fans can kind of support artists that they enjoy directly and then share in the revenue. So, for example, for them, being a music platform, our partnership, we're going to be building working towards some live events. So we're going to have for example, a concert stage where like artists will join up. So to get kind of back to the core question from Tiffany, that's definitely something we're working on. In addition to having dedicated spots for our partners, I think definitely we're looking into areas where people can build their own guilds. That's definitely a part of our planning. Is for players to build and create their own kind of groups, their own guilds within the game. And of course, they would need like a really cool hangout spot that's just for them.
People love the word utility, right? When it comes to all the NFTs and stuff. But it seems like the Electric Sheep NFT just has a ton of utility. Can you talk a little bit about that?
For sure. I think when my dog is me. Jimmy, do you want to take this real quick? I'm going to put my dog in the other room.
Yeah, no worries. Jay has a very interesting vibe. Cool. Yeah, sorry. Johnson, I believe your question is really about the NFT utility.
Yeah,
was that about the Genesis, the Genesis NFT of the Electric Ship itself? What utilities are they, or
yeah, you can talk about both. I mean, it just seems like there's, you were talking about land, you were talking about 3D models. It's so cool. It's not just a profile picture.
Yeah, that's right. So, the whole idea of it all is, centered also around how can we actually create that level of exclusivity, right? When you have avatars, you want to, of course, you want to allow the masses to be able to participate through certain baseline template models that they can just use to best represent themselves. But you also want to, create that level of exclusivity for native residents. How can we, by one look, identify, individuals that are holders of the NFTs that makes up the native community? So that's one of the reasons why we actually came out with the 3D avatars for every single holder. So that's one. Secondly, about land itself, it goes back to a certain degree of exclusivity, but part of the vision is about building a UGC economy, right? And you can't build a UGC economy if you get everything up. And the way that we're already approaching that is, of course, the ideal state is where you have a no-code economy, or a no-code sort of build structure whereby anyone and everyone, and sort of a code idiot like myself with no dev background, could simply go in, have a couple of clicks, spin up something that I like, maybe spend a couple of minutes to design my favorite color scheme or whatnot. But with the baseline template, you can actually spin up and decorate your own experience. And I think that's kind of the segue that we're looking at in terms of allowing users to be part of the larger ecosystem. With this, basically the different land spots and whatnot, they can all create their own experience and allow and bring in their own sort of connections or whatnot. So think about this, right? We are, of course, the Ultiverse project. We can partner with brands and whatnot, but the most effective marketing is really word of mouth. It's about grassroots, community. And for a project, like this to actually work out, it's largely about user economy. It's a network economy product platform. That means that the value of any single product, when we talk about network sort of economy, is where the value of the product actually increases alongside the number of users. And that's kind of the way where we are envisioning it. So if we actually allow, individuals to actually have a land of their own and build their own experience, think about it. Johnson will go out and bring his this friend that he just picked up, at the bar, and maybe you guys are separated geographically, but you can actually, organize meetups with your friends, with your favorite guilds or whatnot, within the Metaverse and Ultiverse. Josh could be doing the same, and Johnson brings in 10 individual. The 10 individual likes it. That 10 individual brings in another 10, and this cycle keeps repeating. And I think that's like one of the way that we're thinking of, in terms of like scaling as well, bringing in like native community members, like, introduction through like word of mouth or whatnot. And there's no marketing that is better than having your own native ambassadors, which are your holders, your community members.
Yeah. Well, you can see it again. Anyone who's listening to this that hasn't jumped in the Ultiverse Discord, like, to check it out, man. Like, there's a lot going on. And yeah, Josh, I'll invite you to my party in the Ultiverse.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll ask for a ticket to be reserved first.
Okay, so hey, I think I skipped ahead, but we actually have 4 more winners. Josh, you want to? I did the first one, which is Kimley. Kimley always has good questions. You want to go ahead and do the second?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, it's funny earlier, Jamie was mentioning about, bringing people on board to the metaverse. I remember I used to play a ton of MapleStory back then. And I think at one point I also had like that was where I found, like maybe my sort of first virtual girlfriend. I'm beginning to wonder like, if everyone sort of, congregates and hangs in this virtual world terminus, right? Or endless loop. And all of a sudden, you're going to get virtual relationships instead of real life relationships, yeah, no, but sorry, I digress. Let me allude to the next question, right?
Josh, you
so
could
we have a question.
maybe you could get a different girlfriend for all the 40 different worlds.
Okay, so there is another question. Let me just pick this out. This question comes from Cringe Productions at 9:52 p.m. He's asking a question of, is there a limit in playing the game? Like, sort of, there's a limited amount of energy available daily.
Interesting.
Yeah. Maybe I think this sounds familiar. I think it's a bit of an extension to play to earn gaming. I mean, there are some games where they sort of allow tokens to, for people to actually sort of earn in game and then proceed to sell to cash out into maybe fiat or stablecoin. This sort of feature sounds as if like there is, some tokens that maybe in Ultiverse, I'm not sure. Like, feel free to share. Is there a feature that you're able to earn, and how does that work?
Yes, so I'll take this one. So actually, the first thing that came to mind was a game I played a long time ago called Harvest Moon, in which it was a single-player game. This is way before GameFi, obviously, but in which in each day in the game, your character only had X amount of energy to get certain things done before you would have to pass out. It was like a farming cutesy farming simulator back on Super Nintendo. That shows you how old I am, but I don't think that's what Cringe is referring to. But to go back to his question. So there's no daily limit. We definitely want people to be able to play the game and enjoy kind of if they want to really dive in deep into the the play to earn side of it, they can definitely do so. Of course, you want to balance that with some in real life activities as well. So we don't advise people to play too much. You got to find your own balance. But no, there's definitely no built-in limits on how much resource gathering you can do on a daily basis.
Awesome.
Very cool. I got a kind of a basic question, right? But I think somebody's asking it, and I think it's a good question. So our third winner is going to be Hydex. Okay, and Hydex asked a question that one past the hour. I want to ask, what specs do I need to run the game? He kind of later joked. He said, I have a potato PC. But yeah, what kind of specs do people need to be able to operate this?
And that's definitely a key question. I think I would start answering that by, we want to kind of find a really good middle ground where we can, present a game that is very immersive. And one key part of immersion outside of the gameplay is definitely the graphical fidelity. And then at the same time, also, it's very key that we make this game accessible, excuse me, for as many people as possible. On being Web3, there's communities on Web3 all throughout the world, and not everyone has access to obviously like a top of the line gaming laptop with the newest graphics card. So I think definitely our kind of ethos is to be able to kind of thread the needle, and then find that sweet spot. We mentioned this a little bit earlier. One of the big benefits to building on Unreal Engine 5 is that we're able to achieve kind of a really high-end, high-polish visual finish to the game without necessarily taxing, gaming processors or CPUs too much. Another key factor that we're going to, obviously focus a lot on is offering to players a really robust set of, game settings, video sliders so they can kind of tweak and set the graphics and video settings to what works for them, to a quality where they still enjoy the game and they still get a good, solid frame rate. So we don't have hard specs yet. A lot of that is going to be dependent on, optimization from the dev team. But I think we're definitely going to achieve, a minimum system requirement that is surprisingly approachable, considering the quality of the game that we're going to be able to.
Oh, Johnson, you're muted.
Very, very cool. I'm seeing some funny questions. We got 2 more spots to give away, you guys. So we're monitoring the questions right now in the comment section. Josh,
Yeah.
I saw a funny one here. It says, what's a girlfriend?
Should we be asking that? What is a girlfriend? I do question.
That sounds like a question that will get you a whitelist spot.
Well, Josh. Yeah, Josh's private messages are open. But Josh, you're gonna pick the next winner, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I've got another question. This one's from a member. His name is Teng Yi at 9:33 p.m. He is asking the question of, hold on, let me just scroll back a little bit. Something about VR. Where is it? Hold on. There we go. Yes. Can we play in VR mode? Because I think earlier there was a mention on VR and MetaFi. When does that feature get enabled? And what sort of platforms or hardware devices would I require?
Yeah, I would say that the build is actually going to be more towards like cross-platform. The goal itself, for VR, of course, is going to be more doable than like HTML5, just because HTML5 has like limitations just in terms of like the quality, as we discussed before. But VR mode is something that is it's not going to be that hard for us to sort of like enable it, and it's definitely on the roadmap. And that the goal is really for to allow users, example, to be able to hop on your Oculus and just go in and interact with it, and of course you then take on the role of like your the perspective of your avatar and just basically interact with it through whatever manner you would like. Basically, the way that we're looking at it is just about enabling it to be sort of like forecasted or like sort of like assessed via another platform. But as far as like the backend build works, it's pretty much the same as you would access it. So example, like from an experience point of view, if you want to initiate like a transaction, you want to talk to someone, you want to click on something, NPC interaction, etc. It should still allow you to do and have the same level of feature or like function fulfillment as you would do on a VR and a PC based experience.
Very cool. Hey, before I forget, so we're giving out 2 Game Street codes tonight. We gave the first code out earlier in the program, so if you missed it, you got to go back and check it out. But the second Game Street code is related to what we're giving out tonight, right, Josh? We're giving away 5 whitelist spots for, what's the name? That's our code. Yeah, Electric Sheep. So check it out there on the bottom of the screen, but that's going to be the second secret code tonight, you guys, for Game Street Electric Sheep. And again, that's the NFT for Ultiverse. I always like to ask Jemmy and Jay kind of towards the end. We still have one more winner to pick. So I want to see another good question to pick the final winner. But can you guys tell us, you've told us quite a bit tonight, but is there sort of any kind of like unreleased alpha that you can share with our community?
Jay, what do you think? I think
So let's see. I think there's going to be, let's call it a secret benefit for minters. electric sheep. I really probably can't say any more beyond that, but we're looking at like an added utility and benefit.
Awesome.
Yeah, and maybe this alpha is something that we are going to announce really soon. It's not probably not made public yet. So just exclusive, to the audience here. Due to like the way the market conditions have been, we have decided to drop the launch in a multi-phase approach, and
Okay,
so
cool.
the first wave would be something that is very, very exclusive. And so, for the audience here, if you guys are interested, the same level of extensive utility would still be extended. And, being part of like the first wave and the first phase of build is what we would term as like the builders round. And it would really allow every single holder to actually get involved, from the very first day, from day one. And basically, that is probably like the best alpha. But fret not, as long as you guys have a min list spot or a white list spot, your min is pretty much guaranteed. Even if we do it out in a multi-phase approach, if you don't get to participate in this phase, you will get to participate in the subsequent phases. And so yeah, but what we can sort of like share at this stage, from an alpha perspective, is that this first phase is going to be a very exclusive phase. It's sort of like a compromise that we've decided to make just to allow community members to actually participate from a more unique user's point of view over the longer term, which we believe is critical to the success of the project. And so yeah, the launch of 10,000 pieces will be done in a multi-phase approach. The first wave will be super exclusive. And if you're really excited and if you're interested about it, do keep a lookout, and there will be instructions for you to actually participate in it. And yeah, I think it should be a pretty exciting one.
And you guys got to keep a lookout for this, right? Because like if you go in the Discord, there's over 100,000 people, Twitter over 100,000 people. Ultiverse has got a really big following. So make sure to keep your eyes, follow all their socials, but keep a close track on this if you guys want to get involved in that front end. Josh, I got another one here. Is it cool if I'm gonna go ahead and pick the final winner?
Go for it.
So Navi at 10 past the hour asked, does in-game gameplay include live mic as well?
Oh, that is interesting. Yeah. Jay, what do you know about that?
Definitely, I'm sorry. Were you going to go ahead, Jimmy?
Yeah, no, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Navi was asking about we saw some super cool in-game gameplay tonight, right? We're running around what a fresh metaverse you guys have. Is there going to be a live mic aspect to this?
So definitely an endless loop because you're going to be playing predominantly with your squad mates, your teammates. So having a live mic, a live chat, a group voice chat is definitely key to kind of synergy as you're playing. We want that to be a function of Terminus as well, but there's obviously we need to tailor to a place where it's not obtrusive to other people playing, because you can imagine if you have a big space in Terminus with tons of people inside and everyone has their live mic on, it might be a little bit crazy. But definitely voice chat and voice mic, live mic will be, and then in Terminus there might be some restrictions about how you can use it in certain areas and how far away people can be able to hear you, or they have to accept a request basically to be able to hear your live mic.
Yeah, someone just wrote it kind of like a proximity mic, so when you move further away, the voice tapers down.
Yeah. I can imagine.
I could be running after Josh in the world. Hey, Josh, can you hear me?
No, I can't.
No, what a cool project, you guys. We really appreciate you coming in and giving us so much time, the generosity of obviously the 5 whitelist spots for our community. Josh, I know this is not the last time we're going to be talking to Jay and Jemmy.
Definitely not.
I really appreciate the time, and I love your guys' platform. I mean, obviously, we've done quite a few AMAs. We enjoy every AMA we're on, but we, chatting with you guys and the platform you guys have here in Europe, where we can, share videos, and the production side of it is just awesome, and we really appreciate it.
we try to keep it fun for our community, but you guys, like if you're catching this at the end today, go back, like watch us from the start. Like in total, we played 4 videos from Ultiverse. We played some gameplay. We played a trailer. Personally, Josh, I love that hover bike. I think that's when Jay, I'm gonna once it goes beta, like I'm gonna need some hoverboard lessons.
I feel you, man. I'm a Star Wars fan, so when I first saw that, the first thing that came to mind was the speeder bikes. If you watch Star Wars from like Return of the Jedi, in the
For
forest,
sure.
one of my favorite kind of scenes.
What was it with the blood or the red, like on the ice there? That was so cool looking.
Yeah, and obviously you're going to be able to. There'll be different skins or different bikes, so we're going to be able to achieve some really cool looking. Different builds on the hover bike. It's not just going to be one asset. There's going to be multiple models and multiple kind of skins that you hover bike in. So super excited.
Awesome. Well, again, you guys go and follow the Discord, the Telegram, the Twitter for Ultiverse, especially the Discord. It's like totally popping in there. Get close with the community because we're all going to be hanging out in the Ultiverse, not just in the Discord in the future. And yeah, just really, I think speaking for everyone at PathDAO, like just really, really excited about what you guys are doing and also really proud to be partnered with you.
Yeah, thanks for having us. More importantly, we're really excited about this, and more importantly, welcoming like the PathDAO community into Ultiverse and build the future of MetaFi together.
Cool. Well, you guys, if you're watching this and need any links, go down into the description below. We have all the links to all the different socials for Ultiverse. And yeah, Josh, you want to finish it off here?
No, that's it. I mean, I really appreciate you guys coming to chat with us. I know, in Singapore and Malaysia, this time zone is like 10:22. It's like nighttime. It's a Friday night. Don't want to keep you guys longer. Appreciate the time.
No worries. It's our pleasure. Once again, thanks to the PathDAO team and to everyone in the audience. Wishing you guys an amazing weekend. Take some time away. Remember to touch grass and
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, we're really excited about what you're building, and thanks again. This, we did a pretty long AMA, so really, again, as Josh said, appreciate you guys giving us so much of your time.
All right, take care, everybody.
All right, take care.
Cool, guys. Hey, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed to the PathDAO YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe. I think we're going to have 3 AMAs or 2 AMAs going on next week. So we got a lot coming up. We got some new partnerships. We're actually going to be announcing a new partnership later today. So keep your eyes peeled on everything. A lot moving with the PathDAO space and community. So Josh, thanks for jumping in, and I'll see you for another AMA next week.
All right, cheers. Take care. Have a good
Cool.
one.
Have a great day, everyone.